Today in the Texas Tribune Weekend Insider. Texas Republicans feared the redistricting-delayed primary would make the state irrelevant in choosing the GOP nomination for president. Jay Root takes a look at how a competitive GOP race not only makes Texas matter, but also brings voters out for other races. Natalie Antonetti's death went unsolved for 26 years. Last year, Antonetti's former boyfriend, Dennis Davis, was convicted of her murder. But new questions are arising about Davis's guilt. Brandi Grissom explains.
Normally, Texas has its presidential primary on Super Tuesday in March, and elected leaders set it up that way a long time ago so that Texas would have a strong voice in the southern region. Well, this year, the redistricting battles caused the courts to delay the primary so they could work out their maps. So now we have a May 29th primary. Normally, it would be over by now. Now what we have is a fairly competitive race, and even though Mitt Romney is pretty far ahead in the hunt for delegates, there's no way mathematically he can wrap this up. Santorum is still in it, still trying to be the conservative alternative, so we may actually have a competitive Republican presidential primary here for the first time since, get this, 1976. I think what we really should look for is a real campaign, which is great for Texas, right? Because normally you've got Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, all these early states that get so much attention. Texas just gets bypassed. They come in, raise money, and they leave. I think this time we do expect visits by the candidates. You have to keep in mind that if you have candidates coming in here spending money on ads, holding rallies, you could really boost turnout. And when you boost turnout, you can affect the entire spectrum of the elections. It could affect the U.S. Senate race. It could affect court races. It could affect county commissioner races, state reps, state senator races. It could really have a big impact on that.
Natalie Antonetti was murdered on October 13, 1985. An intruder entered her home. He beat her in the head with a blunt object several times. For 26 years, Natalie Antonetti's murder went unsolved. So a cold case detective in 2007, he started exploring a tip that came in from one of Natalie's ex-boyfriend's wives. This wife said that Dennis Davis, her husband and Natalie's ex-boyfriend, told her that he had sinned against God and man. And she told police that she thought that was related to Natalie's death. So police began exploring this case all over again. And eventually they poked holes in the alibi that Dennis Davis had established that night. The woman he was with said, no, he wasn't with her that night. One of his ex-girlfriends said that he had in fact confessed to her. All of these things came out at a trial that happened in 2011, and he was convicted and sentenced to 36 years in prison. But now, in the wake of high-profile DNA exoneration of Michael Morton, new questions are arising about who killed Natalie. Natalie was killed in the same way that two other victims were killed. Christine Morton, Michael Morton's wife, and Debbie Masters Baker were both around the same time frame in the 80s, beaten in the head with a blunt wooden object. The murders happened early in the morning, just like it did with Natalie. The women sort of had the same or similar appearance to her, and they were on the same age, and all of the attacks also happened on the 13th day of the month. A Texas Tribune story recently sort of revealed all these series of coincidences between the three murders. And after reading that story, the Travis County District Attorney's Office decided to reopen their investigation into Natalie's murder to see if it could be connected to the other two. In both cases, the police discovered DNA that linked to one man. The Travis County prosecutor who convicted Dennis Davis is now re-examining the case to see whether there's a DNA link between these three cases and whether Dennis Davis might actually be innocent.